Hello, welcome to the self-learning platform by Dr. Sushma Singh. Today we are going to start Unit 17, Libertarianism. And our topic is rule of law and limited government. Libertarianism is not libertarianism or hedonism. It is not a claim that people can do anything they want to and nobody else can say anything. Rather, libertarianism proposes a society of liberty under law, in which individuals are free to pursue their own lives so long as they respect the equal rights of others. The rule of law means that individuals are governed by generally applicable and spontaneously developed legal rules, not by arbitrary commands, and that those rules should protect the freedom of individuals to pursue happiness in their own way, not aim at any particular result or outcome. To protect rights, individuals form governments, but government is a dangerous institution. As stated above, libertarianism arose as a reaction against the social welfare state. Hayek, in his book The Road to Serfdom, warned that adoption of welfare or socialist policies would bring totalitarianism government in the long run. Any tolerable future for the Western civilization would demand that the socialist ideas be abandoned and classical liberalism may be restored once again. Like early liberals, he considered the state the greatest enemy and any interference with the right to private property as an assault upon the rights of the individual. On the economic side, Milton Friedman suggested that competitive capitalism promotes political freedom because it separates economic power from political power and in this way enables one to offset the other. Another writer, Ralph Dahrendorf, complained that the welfare state produces the iron cage of bureaucratic bondage and to a great extent repeated the traditional liberal attitude of suspicion towards the government and the state. As he writes, there is no such thing as benevolent government. Government is an unfortunate necessity. It is always and by definition liable to encroach upon the individual liberties. More than that, there is a need for less government. A more powerful definition of the libertarian view of the minimum state has been developed by the Robert Nozick in his book Anarchy, State and Utopia. Nozick talks about the state in the context of individual rights. Following the tradition of John Locke, Nozick speaks of prior and inalienable rights of the individual possessed independent of society. He says that rights are the property of the individual and are so strong and far reaching that they raise a number of basic questions such as what, if anything, the state may do? How much room do individual rights leave for the state? What is the nature of the state? What are its legitimate functions and what is its justification. The state, according to Nuzak, should be a minimal state, limited to the narrow functions of protection against force, theft, fraud, enforcement of contract, and so on. Any more extensive state will violate the person's right not to be forced to do certain things, and as such would be unjustified. The minimal state is inspiring as well as right. What is important is that the state must not use its coercive apparatus for the purpose of getting some citizens to aid others and prohibit activities of people for their own good or protection. Since Nojek strongly believes in the rights of the individuals, he seriously considers the anarchist's claim that monopoly of use of force by the state may violate the individual's right and hence the state is immoral. Against this claim, Nojak argues that the state will arise from anarchy even though no one intends this. Individuals in the state of nature would find it in their interest to allow a dominant protective agency to emerge which would have de facto monopoly of force and could constitute a state-like entity. The formation of such an entity, if done in an appropriate way, may violate no one's right. That is, if it does not go beyond its legitimate powers of protection, justice, and defense. Justifying the minimal state, he categorically asserts that liberty must get absolute precedence over equality. He opposed the policy of progressive taxation and positive discrimination and asserts that realization of liberty should not be inhibited by the policies of the government in providing public health, care, education, or minimum standard of living. He argued that those who own wealth may voluntarily adopt some redistribution. He is again against any redistribution of property by the state because it may transgress the liberty of those who have property. For Nazak, the state is no more than a night watchman protecting the inviolable rights of the citizens. He asserts that the welfare notion, which advocates that it is the society which allocates resources, is not only the wrong but illegitimate because there is no such thing as society except in the minimal sense of being an aggregate of individuals. There are only individual people with their own individual lives, and society is no more than the sum of its individual components. State intervention means appropriation of both one's resources and one's self, and seizing the results of someone's labor is equivalent to seizing hours from him and directing him to carry on various activities. If people force you to do certain work or unrewarded work for a certain period of time, they decide what you are to do and what purpose your work is to serve apart from your decisions. This process whereby they take this decision from you makes them a part, owner of you. It gives them a property right in you. Thus, the welfare state is a threat to liberty and independence of the individuals because individual is the sole owner of himself and his talent. How far is the non-interventionist, minimal, and market-dominated concept of libertarian state justified? Nozick's views are based on certain inalienable rights of the individual, possessed independent of the society. However, a feature of the modern state is that it has recognized a range of individual rights which were not recognized by ancient Greek or medieval society. Rights are socially and historically constituted. In fact, rights which Nozick defends are actually those rights which were historically specific to the market and were defined and constituted in the context of capitalist relations. They were neither natural nor prior to the state. Secondly, if the resource allocation is to be done by the market, it cannot be equal because in the capitalist society, the market also privileges some groups over the others within the system of production and exchange. Hence, the idea of a free and sovereign individual choosing what to do with his resources is a myth. Nozick's account of the minimum state fails because it contains no theory of taxation. For this reason, other libertarian scholars insist that taxation be according to general rules, uniformly applied. For example, Hayek and Friedman have argued that only a system of proportional taxation is fully consistent with the libertarian requirements. Proportional taxation would prevent the imposition of redistributive taxation on wealthy and unpopular minorities and would be thereby remove a major area of arbitrariness from the public policy. They advocate that taxation policy be governed by general rules so that governments are prevented in their service activities from curbing economic freedom in subtle and covert ways. In short, the concept of limited government propounded by the libertarian acknowledges the state as a permanent necessary evil. In doing so, it exploits the insights of philosophers such as Adam Smith. As Hayek admits, there is a spontaneous order in social life, but qualifies that insight with the recognition that the spontaneous process of society can only be beneficial against a background of legal institutions in which the basic liberties are guaranteed for all. The libertarian concept of the state and choose no less firmly the revisionary conception of government as the guardian and provider of general welfare, empowered to act on its own discretionary authority in the pursuit of a common good, a conception whose reality is everywhere that of a weak government prey to collusive interest groups and incapable of delivering even the security in enjoyment of basic liberties, which is the state's only title to authority. Here we want to wind up today's lecture. Thank you so much for your attention.